Before we go into part 2 of this story, please do let us know the country you are watching from, and do not forget to subscribe to get more amazing stories from us. The room dimmed as another roll of thunder echoed in the distance. Rain tapped gently against the windows, creating a soft rhythm like a lullaby, soothing the storm inside. Amelia pulled the sheets back with shaking hands, her breath shallow yet steady. She wasn't sure how her body would respond, or how this night would change her. But she knew Zach needed her. Not just to break the curse, but to be seen, to be loved even in his most vulnerable form. Zach hesitated at the edge of the bed, his massive frame trembling, not from cold but from restraint. He didn't want to hurt her, didn't want to cross a line he couldn't return from. But when Amelia reached for him, softly guiding him to her, something shifted in the air. Her hands explored him gently, lovingly, fearless. Her kisses landed on the space where fur met skin, and for a moment Zach's body shimmered. A soft golden glow pulsed across him like flickering moonlight, something ancient stirring beneath the surface. Amelia closed her eyes and whispered his name like a prayer. "Zach, come back to me." Light erupted, blinding and beautiful. A low growl morphed into a gasp. The bed trembled, the sheets rustled, and when Amelia opened her eyes, she saw the impossible. Zach, fully human again, bare, breathless, blinking down at her in utter disbelief. His hands, real and trembling, cupped her face with overwhelming emotion. "Amelia, it's me," he whispered, voice cracked and raw. Tears flooded her eyes as she wrapped her arms around him. "No, we did it." Their lips met in a deep, soul-binding kiss, no longer cursed or hidden, just two hearts beating wildly in a room that had witnessed magic, pain, and now rebirth. Outside, the storm passed. Inside, love remained. Zach's lips deepened the kiss against Amelia's, and even though it was her first, she melted into it, her body responding instinctively. She reciprocated, matching his intensity, letting her hands rest gently against his chest. Zach trailed his hand slowly beneath her top, tracing the warmth of her skin until he found her soft, painted peaches. A slight groan escaped Amelia's lips, her body trembling under his touch. It was a new kind of feeling, intense and electric. Whatever Zach was doing, she never wanted him to stop. Every nerve in her body buzzed with anticipation. Breaking the kiss, Zach looked into her eyes, his voice low and laced with emotion. "Can I do it?" he asked, his piercing blue eyes searching hers. "You don't need to ask," Amelia replied, her voice soft and breathless. "You can do whatever you want with me." "Thank you," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I promise I won't hurt you." Gently, he pulled off her top, revealing the tender beauty beneath, her soft skin glowing in the dim light. Zach stared in admiration before lowering his head, his mouth enveloping her. A slight groan escaped her again, and Zach moved carefully, giving equal attention to every part of her body. His hand traced down to her already wet center, exploring her with tender fingers. She gasped lightly, her body shifting slightly under his touch. She was so warm, so tight, that he could only use one finger at first. With his other hand he stroked her gently, cherishing every reaction she gave him. They were completely undressed, lying close together on the bed. Pausing for a moment, Zach then moved between her softly parted thighs and kissed her intimately. Her moans grew louder, filling the room, sending a thrill through him. She tasted sweet, almost addictive, and he savoured every second, staying with her until she trembled and climaxed beneath him. When she calmed, Zack paused, just looking at her, his gaze soft, filled with awe and reverence, like she was something sacred. His fingers traced gently along her sides, sending ripples of heat through her body. "You're beautiful," he whispered, almost as if speaking to himself. Amelia's cheeks flushed pink as she reached out and cupped his face. "I'm yours, Zack. I've always been." His heart pounded in his chest. Leaning in, he kissed her again, slower this time, deeper, intentional, savouring every second as if he might lose her. His hands roamed her back, pulling her closer until their bodies pressed together in perfect harmony. Carefully, he laid her back onto the soft bed, never breaking eye contact. Kissing down her neck and collarbone, he moved lower with patient reverence. Each kiss felt like a promise of love, of pain, of destiny. Amelia shivered under his touch, her fingers tangling in his hair as his warmth enveloped her. And then, with a soft whisper of her name, Zack made her his completely, tenderly, fully. In that moment, it wasn't just about breaking a curse. It was about two souls finally colliding, finally becoming one after all the storms, all the pain, and all the longing they had endured. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, tapping lightly against the windows like a lullaby. Inside, for the first time in years, the storm inside Zack began to quiet too. In the dark stillness of the night, wrapped in each other's arms, the world outside ceased to exist. They had survived the darkness, and now, in each other, they found the light. And so, beneath a sky clearing of storms and heavy clouds, their story took a new breath, one that would echo far beyond this single night. The next morning, sunlight streamed gently through the tall windows of Amelia's room, casting soft golden hues across the bed. The storm had passed. The sky outside stretched clear and endless, the world washed anew. Amelia stirred slowly, her lashes fluttering open. Wrapped in warm sheets, her body still hummed with the memory of the night before. She turned her head, and there he was, Zack, lying beside her. But this time, he wasn't in his cursed form. He was human. Completely. His breathing was calm, his chest rising and falling with a quiet rhythm. His face, once hardened by years of pain, now looked peaceful, almost boyish, as if a heavy weight had finally lifted. Amelia reached out and gently touched his cheek. His eyes opened slowly, locking with hers. Those piercing blue eyes, once filled with sorrow, now brimmed with freedom. She whispered, her voice catching in her throat. "You're human." Zack smiled softly, reaching for her hand. "You saved me." Warmth flooded the room, and a gentle shimmer of light danced over Zack's body, like golden dust lifting into the air and dissolving into nothingness. He sat up slowly, pulling the sheet around his waist. "The final part of the curse," Zack whispered. "It's gone." Amelia sat up too, the sheet clutched to her chest. "Are you sure?" He nodded, a full, genuine smile breaking across his face. "I've never felt more whole." Just then, the door burst open, and Lucas stormed in, breathless. His eyes widened in awe the moment he saw Zack. "It worked!" Lucas gasped, stepping closer. "Zack, you're free!" Zack stood from the bed, still holding the sheets modestly around Amelia. His bare feet touched the cool marble floor, but all he could feel was the rush of new life coursing through him. "I feel different," he said softly. "Not just in body, in spirit." Amelia watched him, her heart full. She had never seen him so alive, so at peace. Lucas let out a relieved chuckle. "I've waited years to see this day, the final bond. It truly broke the curse." Zack crossed the room and placed a strong hand on Lucas's shoulder. "Thank you for standing by me through it all, even when I wanted to give up." Lucas smiled faintly. "You fought harder than anyone, Zack. You just needed the right person to believe in you." Zack turned, his gaze softening as it landed on Amelia. She sat up in bed, sunlight glowing around her like a halo. "She's saved me," he said, his voice full of wonder. Amelia blushed, but smiled back. "You save me too," she whispered, "in more ways than you know." A long, comfortable silence settled over them, the kind that only comes after surviving the impossible. But then Lucas cleared his throat, his face turning serious. "There's one more thing," he said. "Now that the curse is broken, Dante will know, and he won't sit back quietly." Zack's expression darkened, his jaw clenching. "Then let him come," he said, his voice low and steady. He walked back to Amelia and gently took her hand. "Whatever happens next," he promised, "we face it together." She nodded, squeezing his fingers tightly. Together. As they embraced, a quiet wind stirred outside, whispering through the trees like a warning of battles yet to come, but also carrying the promise of a new beginning. Far away, in the dark corridors of a forgotten castle, a figure jolted awake. Dante's eyes snapped open, a snarl twisting his lips. He felt it. The breaking of the curse, the loss of the power he had secretly hoped would chain his brother forever. Back at the Jacobs household, a different darkness brewed. "I think it's time we lure Amelia back home," Mr. Jacobs said, his voice low and sinister, as he lay beside his wife after an intimate moment. His fingers tapped rhythmically against his bare chest, his mind already weaving a plan. "Once she's here, we'll drug her, lock her in the basement, and use her cursed husband to bring us wealth." Mrs. Jacobs smirked, twirling her finger lazily on his skin. "That's smart. That dog man of hers clearly has power and riches. Who would have thought our quiet little girl would turn out to be so clever?" He chuckled darkly. "We'll carry out the plan carefully, no mistakes. She can't suspect a thing." "She won't," she replied confidently. "Not with what I have planned." Meanwhile, at Zack's mansion, Amelia sat curled up on the plush couch beside her personal maid, watching a peaceful TV drama. The warm lighting from the chandelier gave the room a cozy, almost dreamlike glow. Her phone vibrated on the side table. Picking it up, she saw a message from her mother. A sudden chill swept through her body as she read the text. "Sorry to disturb you, Amelia, but you need to come home immediately. Your dad just passed away. The funeral is at 12:30. Her breath caught in her throat. Tears welled up in her eyes before she could stop them. No matter how badly her parents had treated her, he was still her father. Her heart ached at the thought of not being there to say goodbye. Slowly she rose to her feet, her legs trembling. "My lady, are you all right?" the maid asked, noticing the sudden change in her demeanour. Amelia couldn't find the words to answer. She only knew one thing. She had to go. She had to see her father one last time. One of Zack's servants tried to stop her, gently urging her to wait for Zack's return. He hadn't been back for over 3 days. But Amelia couldn't wait. Grief clouded her judgment. She rushed out into the night, her heart pounding with confusion and sadness. The drive to her family's home felt like a blur, the world outside the window flashing by like a distant memory. She barely noticed the raindrops that still clung to the streets, remnants of the night's storm. When she finally arrived and stepped through the front door of her childhood home, a chilling sense of wrongness wrapped around her like a shroud. The house, once empty and full of bitterness, now seemed even colder, like it was holding its breath. She could hear muffled voices down the hallway. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but before she could react, the door slammed shut behind her. She froze, heart hammering in her chest. Two strong hands grabbed her from behind, pulling her backward into the shadows. A cloth pressed against her face, the sharp scent of chemicals burning her nostrils. Her vision blurred. As darkness consumed her, a sickly whisper slithered into her ear. "Welcome home, my dear. It's time for you to pay up." Back at Zach's mansion, Zach paced the length of his study, the heavy silence of the mansion pressing down on him. His heart was restless, every instinct screaming that something was wrong. Amelia hadn't returned, and she wasn't answering her phone. The mansion, once alive with her presence, now felt hollow. Lucas entered quietly, his face tense. "Zach," he said cautiously, "we might have a problem." Zach turned sharply. "What is it?" His voice was already half a growl. Lucas hesitated for a moment, then said, "She's gone. We believe your family has made their move." A low, dangerous rumble built in Zach's chest. Without hesitation, he summoned every ounce of the power still lingering within him. His body began to shift, his muscles stretching and contorting as he transformed back into his cursed form, not out of necessity, but out of sheer need to find her. The curse burned through him, but the pain was dulled by a stronger force: love, determination, fury. Lucas stood ready beside him, armed and grim. "We need to move quickly," Lucas said. "Dante's forces are already here." Zach's sharp blue eyes narrowed, gleaming in the dim light. "Then let them come," he growled. "I'm not losing her." Meanwhile, deep beneath the Jacobs' estate, Amelia stirred awake. Her head throbbed with an unbearable ache, and her vision blurred. Cold stone pressed against her back, and her wrists were bound tightly to the wall with thick ropes. Through the haze of her confusion, she saw the familiar faces of her parents standing a few feet away, their expressions twisted with cruelty. "What is this?" she croaked, struggling against the restraints. Her father stepped closer, a sneer on his face. "Surprised?" he mocked. "I told you we would make something of you, my dear. Now, you're going to help us. After all, your little dog husband is worth a fortune." Amelia's heart raced. "No, you can't do this. Zach won't save you," her mother interrupted coldly. "He's too weak to stop us." Tears stung Amelia's eyes. The people who were supposed to protect her had become her captors. But she couldn't give up. She had to hold on, for Zach, for herself. Above ground, the estate buzzed with activity. Guards hidden in the shadows moved into position, anticipating Zach's arrival. They thought they were prepared. The drum. They were wrong. The ground trembled under the heavy thuds of paws. Zach burst through the iron gates like a dark tempest, Lucas and a small group of loyal guards following closely behind. His form was massive, his eyes burning with raw fury. Inside the dungeon, Amelia's father glanced toward the stone staircase nervously. The tremors grew louder, and the faint growl of something monstrous echoed through the halls. "What's happening?" Mrs. Jacobs asked, her voice wavering for the first time. Before he could answer, the dungeon door exploded inward, shards of wood flying, dust and smoke filled the room. And there, standing in the wreckage, was Zach. His beast form larger and more fearsome than ever, his blue eyes blazing. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. Relief and awe flooded her all at once. Without hesitation, Zach leapt forward, shielding her with his massive body. His growl rumbled through the room like thunder, daring anyone to move closer. Behind him, Lucas and 2 guards stormed into the dungeon, weapons drawn. "Back away from her," Lucas commanded, his voice slicing through the tension. Amelia's mother screamed, scrambling back. Her father reached for a hidden blade tucked into his belt, but he was too slow. Zack lunged forward, pinning him to the cold stone floor with one massive paw. The blade clattered uselessly across the ground. "Zack, don't kill him," Amelia cried, her voice strained with fear. "Please, don't let them make you a monster." Zack hesitated, breathing heavily, his claws digging into the stone. Slowly he stepped back, giving Lucas space to move forward and slap iron cuffs onto her father's wrists. Another guard secured Mrs. Jacobs, her cries echoing off the dungeon walls. "You'll pay for what you've done," Lucas said coldly. "Kidnapping your own daughter, drugging her, planning to exploit her husband. You're going to rot in a cell for the rest of your miserable lives." Her father spat on the ground defiantly. "We did it for power." "And you've lost everything," Lucas replied. Zack turned back to Amelia. Carefully, he shifted back into his human form, ignoring the pain that racked his body. His first and only thought was reaching her. He knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he untied the ropes. As soon as she was free, Amelia fell forward into his arms, sobbing quietly against his chest. "You're safe now," Zack whispered, wrapping his arms tightly around her. "I've got you." Later that night, the mansion was a place of peace once more. Amelia sat wrapped in warm blankets by the roaring fire, Zack beside her, his head resting gently on her lap. "I thought I lost you," she whispered, running her fingers through his hair. He looked up at her, his eyes soft. "I would have torn the world apart to find you, Amelia." Tears slipped silently down her cheeks, but this time they were not from fear or pain. They were overwhelmed with relief. Zack sat up slowly, cupping her face in his hands. His thumb brushed away a stray tear. "Amelia," he whispered, his voice raw with emotion. "I've broken every rule, crossed every line, fought every curse, because I love you. And now—" He reached into the pocket of his coat and pulled out a small velvet box. Amelia's breath caught. Inside the box lay a ring, crafted of ancient gold and set with a luminous sapphire that seemed to glow from within. "Will you marry me?" Zack asked, his voice trembling. "And help me break the final part of this curse? Together?" For a heartbeat, Amelia couldn't speak. Her hands flew to her mouth, her heart racing faster than ever before. "Yes," she whispered. Then, louder, firmer, "Yes, Zack, I will marry you." A shaky breath of relief escaped him. He slid the ring onto her finger, and the moment it touched her skin, a soft wind stirred through the room. The sapphire glowed brighter, acknowledging the vow sealed by love. Wrapped in each other's arms, they sat by the fire as the world outside faded away. In that moment, they had each other, and nothing else mattered. High above the mortal world, in the frozen lands beyond the realm of men, a hooded figure stood before a stone altar cracked with time. Ravens circled overhead, their cries echoing through the bitter wind. Black mist crawled across the snow at the figure's feet. "They broke the second seal," the figure murmured, placing a blood-stained feather onto the altar. A voice, rasping and cruel, echoed from the swirling shadows. "Then the final curse must begin. If they are to unite, the child they bear will bring either salvation or the end of all." The figure raised a skeletal hand toward the swirling storm clouds above. Thunder cracked violently. The winds howled in agony. "Let the prophecy of the Moonborn begin," the figure whispered. Back at Zach's mansion, peace still lingered. For now. Zach and Amelia stood on the balcony, fingers intertwined, gazing up at the stars. The soft night breeze played with Amelia's hair as Zach brushed a tender kiss across her forehead. "There's still so much we don't know," Amelia said quietly, staring at the vast sky. "So much darkness is left out there." Zach turned toward her, his hand cupping her cheek gently. "Then we'll face it together. As one." The sapphire on Amelia's finger shimmered under the moonlight, casting a soft glow between them. A promise unbroken. Somewhere in the dense forest surrounding the mansion, hidden by shadows, Dante sat astride a black horse. His loyal escorts, the Shadowborn, waited silently behind him, their faces hidden beneath heavy hoods. Dante's eyes, glowing faintly beneath his own hood, never left the mansion ahead. "I see your curse has been broken for now, big brother," he whispered to the night air, his voice full of venom. "Rejoice while you can. Cuddle your little wife while you still have lips to smile with, because when I strike—" He paused, exhaling slowly. "You will have nothing left." He turned to one of his men and gave a curt nod. The shadows shifted, slipping deeper into the forest like wolves hunting their prey. Inside the mansion, Amelia curled up beside Zach on the bed, feeling his steady heartbeat beneath her hand. The world felt safe, distant from the storm still brewing outside, but peace was a fragile thing. The next morning, as sunlight crept into the room, Zach stirred awake to find Amelia still wrapped around him, her small hand resting lightly on his chest. He smiled, savouring the moment, brushing a kiss onto her forehead. Before he could fully relax, a knock echoed at the door. Lucas stepped in, his face pale, urgency in his eyes. "We have a situation," he said gravely. Zach sat up immediately. "What is it?" "There's been a tremor at the Temple of Leora," Lucas said. "The seers believe the third seal has begun to shift." Zach cursed under his breath, tension crackling through his body. "Dante," he muttered darkly. Amelia sat up, clutching the bedsheet around her. "You think it's him? Your brother?" "I know it is," Zach said grimly. "He's jealous of everything I've gained, and he'll stop at nothing to destroy it." Amelia reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "Then we'll face him," she said fiercely. "We've come this far. We won't fall now." Zach leaned in and kissed her gently, his hand pressing against hers, his blue eyes locked with hers, full of worry and love. "I know we will," he said, his voice steady. "Nuna. But I need you to stay here. Some things I must handle alone." "Zach," she began, but he was already moving, already dressing swiftly. "I promise," he said, turning to her with a soft, determined smile. "I'll be back before sunset." Before she could say more, he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Amelia sat frozen for a moment, fear curling in her chest. She glanced down at the sapphire ring, now pulsing faintly. It felt like a warning. "I won't stay behind this time," she whispered to herself, determination hardening her voice. Without wasting a moment, she rushed to the old library deep inside Zach's mansion. Rows of ancient books towered around her, the air thick with the scent of parchment and forgotten magic. Her fingers flew over the dusty spines until she found it, a heavy, leather-bound book Zach had once hidden from her. Flipping it open, she scanned the faded pages, her heart hammering in her chest. Symbols, old drawings, words written in languages long dead. Then she found it. A page detailing the third seal, the prophecy of the Moonborn, and the hidden power inside the one who shared the Moonborn's love. Her, The realization struck her like lightning. She wasn't just Zach's weakness, she was his strength too. Their bond wasn't a burden, it was a weapon. Meanwhile, miles away at the Temple of Leora, Zach moved through the ancient ruins, the wind howling around him. His beast form raced with urgency, claws digging into the cracked stones. And there, standing in the heart of the ruined temple, was Dante, clad in black armor, surrounded by swirling shadows. "So you came," Dante said, his voice dripping with mockery. "I won't let you break the third seal," Zach growled. Dante laughed, a low, cruel sound that echoed through the hollowed walls. "I don't need to break it. You will, once I force you to fight me to the death." He charged forward, claws slashing, fangs bared. Zach met him head-on, the clash of brothers shaking the ground. Back at the mansion, Amelia stood on the balcony, her heart pounding. She stared up at the blood-red moon, the sky now twisted and angry. The ring on her finger pulsed brighter. A whisper echoed in her mind. "Call him. Your love will lead the way." Without thinking, she raised her hand high. "Zach!" she cried out. "I'm coming to you!" Light erupted around her, swirling, lifting her off her feet. The balcony vanished in a flash of brilliance. In a heartbeat, she was gone. At the temple, as Zach and Dante fought like monsters reborn, a beam of radiant light descended from the sky. Out of it stepped Amelia. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Both brothers froze, shock flashing in their eyes. Zach stumbled back, in disbelief. "Amelia!" Without hesitation, she ran to him, placing a hand firmly on his chest. "You're not alone anymore," she said. "We'll fight this together." Suddenly, the ancient seal carved into the temple floor blazed with blinding light. Dante recoiled, snarling in rage. "No, this wasn't supposed to happen." The ground shuddered violently beneath them. But the bond between Zach and Amelia burned brighter than any curse. The war for their future had truly begun. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the temple shuddered violently. Light poured from the ancient seal carved into the floor, forcing even Dante to shield his eyes. Zach held Amelia tightly against him, shielding her with his body as a powerful force surged around them. "What did we just awaken?" Amelia whispered, her voice trembling. Zach shook his head slowly, his eyes locked on the blinding seal. "Something older than even I remember. The bond we just shared. It triggered the enchantment." He swallowed hard. "We didn't break the third seal, we unlocked it." Dante's face twisted in fury. "Fools!" he roared. "You think love will save you? You've only called forth the very thing the prophecy warned about." Before Zach could move, Dante vanished into the swirling shadows, his laughter echoing through the ruined temple. The seal cracked with a deafening boom, releasing a shockwave of energy that hurled Zach and Amelia backward. They landed hard against the crumbling stone, the world spinning around them. Lucas and a group of guards arrived moments later, rushing into the chaos, weapons drawn. The temple's pillars groaned and splintered, chunks of stone raining down. "We have to go!" Lucas shouted, grabbing Zach's arm. Zach gathered Amelia into his arms and nodded. Together they fled the collapsing temple, the air behind them alive with crackling magic and falling debris. By the time they reached the edge of the forest, the Temple of Leora was little more than rubble and smoke. Back at Zach's mansion, Lucas waited anxiously by the gates. When he saw Zach and Amelia, bruised but alive, relief washed over his face. "You made it," he said, exhaling heavily. Zach helped Amelia down from the horse. She stumbled slightly, but he caught her instantly, his arms a safe haven. Lucas handed him a sealed scroll. "The High Seers sent this," he said grimly. After they felt the shift, Zack broke the silver wax and unrolled the parchment, his eyes scanning the faded script. His brow furrowed deeper with every word. Amelia's heart pounded as she watched him. "What does it say?" Zack looked up, his voice tight. "It says the third seal was never meant to be broken or protected. It was meant to be inherited by the child born of the cursed and the pure-hearted." Amelia froze. "A child?" Lucas stepped closer, his face solemn. "If the prophecy is true, your future child may hold the power to end the war between darkness and light, or to destroy everything." A heavy silence fell over them. Zack took Amelia's hand firmly in his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "No matter what happens," he said, his voice fierce, "I won't let anyone hurt you, or our future. We'll write our own ending to this prophecy." Amelia nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. Together. Far from the mansion, deep in the dark woods, Dante stood before a towering mirror made of black obsidian. Blood dripped from his palm as he traced ancient runes across the mirror's surface. "They've unlocked the inheritance," he hissed. A voice whispered from the mirror's depths, ancient and malevolent. "Then you know what must be done." Dante's lips curled into a snarl. "The child cannot be allowed to live." His fingers clenched into fists, blood staining the mirror's surface. "I'll kill them before that child is ever born," Dante growled. He turned to his shadow-born warriors who knelt silently in the shadows. "Prepare for war," he commanded. "The time for waiting is over." Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Zack and Amelia sat quietly in their bedroom. His large frame loomed gently over her, his intense gaze locked onto her face. "Thank you so much, Amelia," Zack said, his voice low with emotion. "Thank you for standing by me, even when the world turned its back on me." Amelia looked up at him, her eyes soft but firm. "You stood by me first, Zack. When everyone else neglected me, you cared. You protected me. Why would I ever abandon you in your darkest hour?" Zack's eyes softened. He reached out and took her hand, his touch warm and steady. "You're my light, Amelia, and I'll never let that light fade." He smiled gently, brushing his thumb across her knuckles. "And from now on, I'll call you Zia," he said softly. "It means bright light." "Wow, I love the name," Amelia said, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Thank you for making me feel wanted." Zack leaned in, wrapping his arms around her, pulling her close. "Anything for you, Zia," he whispered against her hair. "I'd move mountains and turn the deepest forests upside down just to see you smile." He looked down at her, his blue eyes full of endless affection. Leaning forward, he kissed her deeply, tenderly, careful not to hurt her in any way. Amelia melted into the kiss, her fingers clutching the fabric of his shirt as if anchoring herself to the moment. Time slowed around them. There was no world beyond this, just the two of them, breathing the same air, feeling the same heartbeat. When they finally pulled apart, their foreheads rested against each other, their breaths mingling in the cool night air. "I've never felt this safe," Amelia whispered. "You'll never have to feel unsafe again," Zack promised. "Not while I'm here." She smiled, her eyes glassy with emotion. "Promise?" "I swear on every star in the sky," Zack said, sealing it with a soft kiss on her forehead. The wind outside rustled gently through the trees, almost as if nature itself was blessing their bond. Somewhere in the distance, a night bird called, but neither of them moved, because at this moment nothing else mattered. Just then a guard stepped into the room quietly, whispering something urgently into Zach's ear. His expression hardened instantly. "I'll be back, Zia," Zach said, standing up. "Just take care of yourself." Before Amelia could respond, Zach had already left the room, his broad back disappearing through the door. She sighed heavily. "Humph, he's always leaving," she muttered. At that moment, a maid stepped into the room, bowing politely. "I'm sorry, milady," the maid said sweetly, "but it's time for your bath. I'm here to assist you." Slowly, Amelia rose from the bed and walked to the wardrobe, changing into a cosy robe, her back turned to the maid. She never saw the flower vase coming. The maid struck her hard at the back of the head. Pain exploded behind Amelia's eyes, and before she could scream, the maid pulled a syringe from beneath her garment and plunged it into Amelia's neck. Darkness claimed Amelia instantly. Inside Zach's mansion, the maid crouched over Amelia's unconscious body, her face twisted into a cold, sinister expression. With practiced ease, she dragged Amelia's limp form across the luxurious bedroom floor. She reached behind the massive wardrobe, pressing a hidden lever. A concealed door creaked open, revealing a dark tunnel beyond. "No one will even suspect a thing," the maid whispered under her breath. "Dante sends his regards, little light." With a final glance over her shoulder, she disappeared into the shadows, the hidden door sealing shut behind her, leaving no trace of Amelia's presence.